And now I'd like to turn to someone else who knows a great deal about Hillary Clinton. He wrote a book about her, and someone who's been following the Benghazi drama closely as well. Carl Bernstein. He's, of course, one half of the Woodward and Bernstein team that broke the Watergate scandal, so he knows plenty about political shenanigans. Carl, welcome to the program. You know a cover-up when you see one, so do you sense one here when it comes to Benghazi?
I think we need to back up a bit and say right off the bat that this is not Watergate or anything resembling Watergate. Watergate was a massive criminal conspiracy led by a criminal president of the United States for almost the whole of his administration. We're talking total apples and oranges here. That does not obviate the fact that this particular memo should have been turned over by the State Department to those who called for it.
When you see so much of the coverage of this issue, especially on the right, especially on programs on Fox News Channel, do you view it as a campaign to tarnish Hillary Clinton?
This is about an ideological, scorched earth politics that prevails in Washington on Capitol Hill and by the media that goes way beyond Fox. It goes to the web, it goes to MSNBC to some extent. It also goes to general coverage. Benghazi is a story that ought to be examined in a fact-based way, lower the temperature. It's not about criminal presidencies or anything of the kind. It's about finding out what happened, and it's not that difficult to do in a sane atmosphere. We don't have a sane atmosphere.
As someone who wrote a book about Hillary Clinton, do you look at the coverage, though, and think it is clearly intended to link to her and hurt her possible presidential ambitions?
Of course, this is partly about Hillary Clinton, and it should be partly about Hillary Clinton. Does Fox News, does the Republican Party, does Dale Issa, does John Boehner want to derail her candidacy? Of course they do. Is there a almost mad hatred for Hillary Clinton by the people over there at Fox and some other news outlets, by the Weekly Standard, some others on the right? Sure there is. But that doesn't obviate the fact that there is a real story here to be looked at in context. I think we know most of the truth about what happened at Benghazi. If it were possible, and I don't think it is, to have a calm, non- or bipartisan investigation, contextual, that would once and for all establish a set of irrefutable facts, that would be terrific. But I don't think such a thing is possible in today's political or media atmosphere.
These talking points, we've read so much about these talking points, and they are clearly political talking points. But we're talking about a tragedy that involved the deaths of 4 Americans. Is that something that's been somewhat lost?
I don't think it's been lost, and I don't think there's anything surprising about talking points for the Sunday shows being in a political context. Every president and every secretary of state and undersecretary and member of Congress always is looking at political points as well as simply intelligence and factual points. There's nothing wrong with that. What occurred here, however, is that the reaction to those political points was furious, some of it perhaps understandably, but so far we haven't seen any great misuse of intelligence, such as we saw, for instance, in the lead up to the Gulf War by the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, misusing and misrepresenting intelligence to go to war. We've seen nothing like that. What we do have here, though, is the Congress of the United States asking for documents that it is entitled to have. And the failure of the executive branch to turn those documents over, the omission of this one document in particular, is troubling. And the White House ought to have a much better explanation than Jay Carney's double talk has shown so far. But that is not to confirm in any way the wild assertions of the right and the Republican Party having to do with Benghazi.
What I hear you saying is it's not a 72-point type story. It's not a blaring headline, but it is a 24-point or an 18-point headline. It is a worthy headline.
Look, I don't want to reduce this to headlines. I think that's part of the problem. I think that what we need to do is look at things in the news as context. And part of that is to look at the players, is to look at Dale Issa and who he is and what his objectives are. To also look at what President Obama or Hillary Clinton or Susan Rice was trying to do at that moment. But in context, was Susan Rice trying to go out there and deliberately lie about what had happened? It sure doesn't look like it to me. But take a look at the record. But I do think that the scale to which the Republican right, the Tea Party right, has made this issue, tried to make it and over-politicize it and over-ideologically taint it, is wrong and has taken the thing wholly out of context.
Carl Bernstein, it's always a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you for coming on with me.